And this right here, this is why I love these guys. They took my personal favorite couples camping fifth wheel floor plan and made it something that my family would love. Hello, everybody. Josh, your RV nerd. Welcome back to Bish's RV. Back down here in the Brinkley Dream Room, getting my first look at one of the second or third run, I think, prototypes on their new 2810 Model Z. What they basically did here, to say unceremoniously, is they took the 2680 Model Z, which is my personal favorite couples camping fifth wheel on the market today. If money's not an issue, this is the one that I'm gonna go with. And then they put one of the best executed L-Bunk rooms on the back of this thing. So first of all, being a fifth wheel and not a travel trailer, they have more sidewall space in that private rear room back there because nobody wants an open corner bunk in a fifth wheel nowadays. But they put a full-on normal entry door on the back of it with deadbolt security and everything else. So if you do want to use that for cargo space going down the road, you totally can. But also it provides just an easy flow, come and go kind of situation. It almost reminds me of like growing up living in the country. Nobody came in the front door of the house. That was just in the front yard. Everybody came in the back door into the kitchen. That was like the social welcoming space. It sort of has a little bit of feel like that to me, but all of the storage and the little details in that rear room absolutely knock my socks off. They have obviously standardized now and adapted their upgraded, coils spring system pin box, which transfers vastly less stress into the chassis of the RV, which means the RV is not gonna bang around as hard on the road. And the new TCS Touring Coil Spring Suspension System, now basically official on the Model Z series here and moving forward. And that will apply to basically all the Model Zs that it possibly can. It's not just this model right here. So better ride, better handling, still has anti-lock braking, still has that electric brake surge system. So if you're going down a very steep hill, the RV automatically gives you more braking so that you're not getting pushed down a very steep incline. The hot cold weather package, the one-touch auto leveling, all the features you expect out of a Brinkley, including a new revised little dining area and just a very nice living space in this one. I really like what they've done here, but I'd like to hear from you. What do you think about this one? Good, bad, ugly, and in between. Leave me some notes and let's go. So let's get going here. First of all, they've maintained this, it's really kind of clipping on modern residential trends. This, I kind of call it executive sort of looking decor here. A lot of people like how it looks very modern and fresh. Some people feel like it feels a little flat in one color. It's the kind of decor that like you can personalize very easily. If you bring along a few extra like throw blankets or pillows or something, it completely morphs like in real time right in front of your eyes. They have maintained their pet-friendly features as well. And there's a couple different layers of that. The more obvious ones is the lack of floor heating vents and carpet with that carpetless floor flush slide. And the little dog dish thing right here, there's a little metallic plate built right onto the base of that cabinet, where if you want to have little dog dishes set out, you can have it. And if you don't have a dog, or if you don't want to leave it there or whatever, you can just remove it, and it can make a handy little place to kick some shoes off. Although the floating style steps that I'm about to walk down, those also make a very handy little shoe garage space. The look on these always is very simple and clean. You don't have that machine gun line of staples. You basically are super hard pressed to visibly identify any mechanical fasteners in Brinkley RVs. And the fit and finish on things is always very, very sharp. Like, you notice how they don't use any gimp mold trim or anything where the roof meets the sidewall. Everything is just pretty flush and pretty tight in these pretty darn consistently. Now, your main cabin lights, your bedroom, those are going to be dimmable. Let's talk about air conditioning here. Dual air, factory standard on every single Model Z. So a lot of the things that other RVs would be ready for that you could add most of the time are just going to be standard here. And then this preps for like a luxury level above. But that's your Furrion 18,000 BTU chill cube. If you don't know what that is, basically most RV air conditioners, once they reach your desired temperature, they hard shut off. And then it immediately starts to warm up in here. That thing works a little bit more like the auto cool mode on the dash of the fancy pants truck that you might be towing this thing with, where once it gets to the temp you want, it goes into cruising mode, and it just quietly maintains that temperature in a more energy efficient fashion. This thing does the exact same. Now, both here in the kitchen and in the bedroom, you'll find the XL vent fans with the rain sensors built onto them here. And it always throws people off that those are mounted on a little bit of an angle. That's correct. You don't realize that because you're looking at a flat ceiling panel on the inside of the RV, but those are actually mounted in alignment with the exterior barreled roof line. So it looks funny. There's nothing wrong with it. The amount of cabinet space, and we haven't even, like, I'll get all of this opened up. The extra large pantry, the bigger stovetop, the residential size microwave, the fact that you see those little toe kicks under the sink in the stove. So you can really basically belly right up to the bar and use those without a lot of lower back pain. They're just very, very good at those details. This is all solid surface counters. One little that I have with these is just that your power outlets are under the overhead cabinetry. If you look, you see the white outlet faceplates under those right there. So they're in smart locations, and I don't know that it's like they didn't put a massive tall gap between the countertop and the cabinetry where it makes those things hard to utilize. But I don't know. Some people like it, some people don't. I do prefer outlets down at counter level. I do think these are functional though. We're going to get into, this is basically Model Z Dynesk version 9.0 right here. I'll give you a better look at that when we get a little more sideways with it. Over here at the theater seating, you are facing directly at the smart TV up top. Now that is high mounted. It is up there quite a ways, but they actually downward angle the entire cabinet. So it is actually a pretty fairly organic viewing angle. And if you get up here, you actually see they include this extra little shelf with all kinds of power outlets. So if you want to make this a little charging station, it just leaves you extra opportunities where you have a small Blu-ray player. Some people still like to bring disc functions with them. You can throw that up there. I will come back to the table. First of all, I just kind of want to give you an overall experience in the living area, and then we're going to, dive into everything in more detail right here. Sometimes people ask why the two sofas are two-tone, because that's just it's a design choice. That's kind of a popular residential trend right there. So they've applied it to this RV. They do not currently offer furniture color swaptions or anything like that. Actually, I'm going to, especially in the rear bunk room on this, try to proactively answer a bunch of questions I think you might have. And if you appreciate how we go out of our way to kind of try to think like, what sort of questions might people have before you even need to bother asking it, drop us maybe a little like on the video. I don't know. In the meantime, though, let's take a look at the dining situation, because if you look at this, most builders of a bunkhouse layout like this, what they usually do is they put a U-dinette over here and then a sleeper sofa where that sleeper sofa is. But Brinkley went with the double sofa situation, but you didn't lose your dining. You just can tuck it away. Couple revisions that they've applied to this. It used to be when you slid the table outward, that rear leaf was just loose. You had to find some place to store it in the RV. It's actually hinged onto that right now. So it's just less loose stuff that you have to worry about stowing around. Now you saw the two little stools right here kind of floating around the RV in the beginning. They're really intended, I think, primarily to be some functional dining seat spaces here, but they also offer additional seats. Because if you don't really care for those little stools, you prefer something with a little bit more of a back, they actually include a pair of these like folding stowaway chairs, where if you do want a family of four around the dining table, as you can see, there is space to be able to fit everybody. And this is like dining drawer version 6.0 right here. They basically, instead of two small drawers, made it one big drawer, and it just offers vastly more utensil space. Or, sitting right here by the table, you want a place to keep, deck of cards or anything like that. Another thing I thought was really cool, those fold-away chairs. A lot of RVs have something like that, but you just kind of shove them under the bed, and in transit, they can jiggle, bang around, and damage stuff. Brinkley actually includes a pair of padded bags for those, one for each chair. Just big time show of care and concern so that your RV continues to look really nice even if you use it all the time. And you do see that those ottomans actually do offer a little bit of storage. So even if you don't plan to use them as seating, they can make a cool little emergency storage function. Handy little toy box, if nothing else, You might notice where like your full control panel is actually on the door on the right-hand side that I failed to open, so apologies. But you've got that vertical chunk of space right there. That's where they put your daily access fuses. That's where your main items will be for like slides, awnings, stuff like that. hidden away up there with these stereo controls. And there are windows over here. I'm going to kind of teach you how to fish a little bit. If the window opens for airflow, it will have day and night shades, and of course a bug screen like you see the windows on the right and left. The one in the middle does not open for airflow, but notice how they have kind of the integrated shade with the whole hardwood kind of frame out right there. It just gives it a nice clean look, and you can absolutely blot the sun out. Also, on the back of those blackout shades right there, they are outfitted with a radiant barrier backer. So if it's a screaming hot sunshine day, you pull out the blackout shade, organically blocked a lot of sun, and now reflected more of it. What's interesting about this hide-a-bed is it just gives like a lot of family seating, but also creates three totally separate sleeping zones, which can be really handy depending on, you know, how many people or how your household is arranged or anything like that. Now, I'm at kind of a funny angle to sort of start going through the kitchen cabinetry, but it's the best way to sort of get you into this big pantry that's built right into the slide. I love that down low the drawers slide out. They added drawers that slide open to make it easy to get to the access. Hello, shiny balding head in the mirror over there. Okay. Behind here, you might notice you actually have there's a power outlet back there. So if you do want to use this like a little appliance cubby, it's a perfect little space to do that. This is a 16 cubic foot, 12-volt compressor fridge, by the way, the same thing Model Zs have always had, but usually in this style of floor plan, most builders give you an 8 to 10 cubic foot. So basically, they've given you a refrigerator that is 60% bigger, up to potentially twice as large as pretty much anybody else who builds a floor plan like this. Now, there might be a few exceptions, but not many. For the most part, that information is going to hold up pretty well, pretty accurately. They also give you a larger oven down here, and this looks like a 4-burner RV stove. I'm actually kind of glad it's not, because typically you can't actually fit 4 pots and pans on a 4-burner stove. It's actually an oversized 3-burner, which allows you to fully utilize the whole thing, which I think was a really smart decision there. Once again, big, like residential size microwave on here. But one of the things I like that they really started doing is actually over there in that corner. That's always been a tricky space for a lot of RV builders. Like when you have an L-shaped cabinet, it's hard to make the whole thing accessible. So they put that like double door with the hinge in the middle on it. And don't get me wrong, it's still quite a reach back there. You still might need, even I would need a step stool to reach the back of the top, but they made it easier to access without wasting any of the capacity. Now, this is all hardwood cabinet door framed. These are lumber core pocket screwed cabinet styles and rails. Down here below the big farm, well, how do I want to go about this? I got kind of too many things I want to focus on. So we're going to start over here with the thing that's most directly easily visible. The easy slide open trash can. I cannot believe how many RVs just don't give you a place to put garbage. It blows my mind. You're going to use that every single day. So I love that Brinkley thinks about it and then includes it. Also, this is an easy way to get to see their dovetailed drawer construction. Just something a little bit higher end as compared to just a conventional stapled box drawer, which usually works fine. This is just a level above. You'll also notice anywhere that something's going to bump into something else, they always put those little rubber bumpers on it. And as you've seen from Brinkley from day one, they have that handy little paper towel roller right there that you can, if you want to take it out, put it on the like the countertop, you can. But it's not like totally boxed in drawer. You can still just reach in and grab it. What I was going to say a second ago is down here below the farm sink, first of all, you have like a little spice rack, but then they left this wide open. Do you see that white power outlet back of there? Back of there? Yeah, okay. In the corner. This is dishwasher prepped. So if you feel like adding one of those little RV dishwasher systems, that is something you could very easily do here. Now, we saw the drawer space below the dinette, or rather, sorry, the drawer above the dinette. You also have a lot of storage below the dinette to make it the easiest to reach, though. Sometimes it does kind of help to slide the table from one side to the other. As you see I've done here, you can slide it from left to right. You could leave it centered up, whatever you want to do. It's just being real, being totally candid. That is not the most convenient storage space to get into. But when I look around the rest of the RV, I'll give it a pass because that's not a primary storage space. There's enough other storage in the RV that I don't need to get under the dinette for things most of the time. So I might just keep some things down there. I don't know, like some flashlights that I don't need very often, some extra dog treats or something like that, maybe. Just things that I don't need all day, every day. Now, we are technically in a prototype. Micah himself, for those of you who know Brinkley, you know Micah. He's actually going to be taking this thing for his own personal demo very shortly here. His description of this RV was, I believe, the bee's knees. I don't know why I don't know what's so special about the knees of a bee, but man, everyone seems to think very, very highly of them. Here in the baked bean bucket in the center armrest console, you do have a pair of USB plugs. Last I knew, they were changing that wireless charge pad out for a set of cup holders built right into the sofa. Now, again, we are in a prototype model, so it's possible that they had some old stock of some sofas that they're like, hey, it's a prototype, go ahead and toss that in there. I could be mistaken. Contact our team and we can clarify that for you. But I believe the production models will have cup holders in the armrest. If I'm mistaken on that, my apologies. Again, I would like you to trust but verify. Let's make sure it's correct, essentially. Also, for road mode, quick little note in the back of your head, you got to fold that countertop extension down. Now, this floor plan is basically built similar to the 2680 no bunk couples camper. It just doesn't have that full rear room. Instead, what it has right here is like a dedicated desk space. Some people said, man, I really like that, but I really need to sleep my family in it. So they said, no problem. We'll just add a bunk room on the back of it. It is, in a sense, very similar to what you might have seen from a couple other things. Like this is, I'm trying to remember, is it the 3110 Model Z? Has a very similar rear room. So they kind of just took Lego brick Frankenstein methodology here where they took two campers and essentially bolted one onto the back of the other. And as unceremonious as that sounds, it is also very nice and very effective. I love the touch too of including the little phone charger device shelf here for the bunk rooms. And I would just say the kiddos. Holy crap! Sorry, squirrel. That is like 3 times thicker and denser than what I usually find even in high-end fifth wheels. I have such huge respect for that because if the kids don't sleep good, you're not going to sleep good. In the little bunkhouse camper that I've used a lot, my daughter has said, as she's gotten older, that she just doesn't always sleep good in there. So we've had to enhance some bedding solutions for her that I don't think you have to in this. Now, that smart TV, all the TVs you see in this are factory standard smart TVs. So you don't have to go adding a bunch of extra stuff. But before I had my squirrel moment, what I was saying is this RV is good for more than just the kids. Because these L-Bunk houses, if you look at this, you've got like an 8-foot long bed there. And they did a little bit of a Jack and Jill here where the bottom bunk essentially is a little bit bigger. Now it's wider, it's not longer, but like I could probably still sleep corner to corner on that. I'm a little over 6 foot tall. I think I could make this work. If you actually get all the way in here though, like they really use the space very effectively. Like the upper bunk had a phone charge station. Why wouldn't the lower bunk want one? So they made sure to include little stuff like that. Like the thought and the detail that went into this is just very complete, I guess I would say. And I started looking at this and I went, yeah, but man, that bunk is awful high. I don't want to have to throw the kids up. And then I went, well, because they went Jack and Jill over here, the kids could climb on the lower bed. But what if somebody's sleeping down there? And then I looked closer. They color matched it so well. I initially missed it. They reinforced all of this shelving where it's a shelf ladder. I don't want to call it a shatter because that sounds like a person who is past tense doing things potentially in the UK. But I think you get the idea. They created a space that is both storage and a ladder, which I think is really funny. And speaking of storage, they went crazy in this room. They loaded this thing up. Now, these are bigger, thicker, heavier rated drawers than you typically find in a lot of bunkhouse models. Still the dovetail drawer construction. And I was just telling the folks here locally a story of why I respect all the storage in this bunk room. Ooh, little laundry solution. Not massive, but little kids wadding up a lot of clothes. Functional. Okay, I like that. Sorry, back to story time. My squirrel saw a squirrel. When I was telling the folks here, when I was young and dumb, my wife and I, when we were young and dumb, and now I'm just not young anymore. We had our kid, and the two of us had a charming little starter home, and it was more than we thought we'd ever need. Those drawers are huge, dude. Nice. The thing though is eventually our family grew. We had our daughter. And somehow that little girl, even as a toddler, occupied 2/3 of our home. I don't know how the math checked out on that, but that was the case. Oh, by the way, I do apologize. You might have noticed a slight flicker on the lighting there a couple times. That's because the bunk room also has dimmable lighting. Unless it's 100% lit up, it will flicker on screen, and I was too busy with story time to notice it. My apologies for anyone sensitive, photosensitive there, including my video editor. I really should have caught that. Anyway, but this little girl that we had occupied 2/3 of our house. And it's kind of like how we had a queen bed, and then we got a little 14-pound fluffball dog that sleeps in bed with us who somehow occupies 2/3 of a queen bed. So we had to get a little bit bigger. King bed, I think, primarily so my wife could just get away from me at night. The point that I'm making here is there's no such thing as too much storage for the kids in that bunk room. So I really like what they did there. I also really like how they give us a bigger window in the door, and they have an XL full-length bottom-up privacy shade. You have a second one of those in the bunk room, by the way. And again, the bunk room's entry door is exactly like this entry door, where it has a deadbolt. Oh, son of a gun. I told you I was going to proactively answer some questions about the bunk room, and then got on story time and totally didn't. I'm so sorry. Anyway, I think people are going to see this rear room. And the number one question I always get whenever we look at a bunkhouse RV is, can I get it without the bunks? No one ever seems to look at a couples camper and ask, can I get it with bunks? They always ask, can I get it without bunks? This model is how it is. They don't offer customizations currently. They don't offer changes to the back room of this. Like some people, I think the first question some people might look at is say, can I make it an office? Can I get an office? So like the Model Z 3515 has a variable height power desk in a very similar size room, but it's not identical. It doesn't match, it doesn't fit, they don't offer that change. I think some people are also going to look at this big bank of storage and ask, can I get it washer dryer prepped? I think that could make a really cool laundry room or something like that. And the answer right there is no, for two reasons. One, they just don't offer it. Two, you don't really want a washer dryer unit in an RV all the way dead on the rear wall because it bounces more. Apparently there are some allowed exceptions to that, but that's a general rule that you want to try to follow. So this room just is how it is. And maybe that's a disappointment for you. I do apologize if that's the case. That's not my goal, certainly. But I also always want to be very candid and very real about what is and what isn't. So, you don't have to waste your time calling and saying, oh, our guys will check the factory. You just know. You know right now, you know ahead of time. And if you appreciate that, even if this wasn't the good news you're looking for, even if this is a bit of a bummer, I don't know, leave me a little note that says, hey, thanks, nerd, and maybe subscribe if you haven't, and know that we'll shoot you straight, even if it ain't always the pretty news. I don't think I gave you very much of a look at the living space, like from the bunk room looking for it. I think I gave you a brief view of it, but just so that you can say you saw it before it gets all blown apart, with all the stuff that I had laying around everywhere. That's one of my only knocks against those little storage ottomans. I feel like they can just sort of get in the way sometimes. I don't know. And I'm sure you get the idea. Your control panel here is behind this handy little door. But once again, they typically will hide controls as much as possible. This one you're like, well, what about this guy sitting out open air? Well, it's a thermostat. You kind of need it to be in the open air so it can do its job. Also, little details like this, I really love and appreciate. The little magnet holdback, oh my God, those things grab harder than you would think. So if you want to leave that door open and travel down the road like that, it's not a worry. Like Montana's been doing it for years. You might also notice how they don't have that extra ankle breaker step of death in their upper deck. Basically, that's because they're using a thicker, heavier, stronger chassis as compared to, not all, but I won't even say some, I'll say many RV manufacturers. That's also part of the reason that this is approved for even things like Gen Y hitching. A lot of people also don't realize, like, those Gen Y hitches are really nice. They say, wow, it rides much, much nicer in my truck now. Yes, it does, because it takes a lot of that road travel and stress and it transfers it into the frame and the body of the RV. So if the RV doesn't have a chassis made for it, you should not change a fifth wheel kingpin system into like a Gen Y model. You really, I don't care what RV manufacturer you're looking at, you really need to investigate what Hitch systems it is approved for. Like, I have nothing against the good people at Anderson Hitch. I think they do some very good work, but very few fifth wheel manufacturers approve their designs for the Anderson Hitch system. I stand to gain no money by sharing this. I'm not trying to skew you one way or the other. Purely educate. Anyway, porcelain foot flush toilet with plenty of legroom around it, as you can see. It's a very, what I call, fluffy friendly design. What's harder to see from this angle, if we crane our necks around the left corner here, you can see that toilet paper holder. Over here on the right hand side, you get a little better look at the fact that it is magnetically latched in place, so it's easy to travel with down the road, but then it gives you the choice of moving it where you want. Notice how we also have a seamless fiberglass molded shower. If you watch my Model Z factory video tour, you'll also get to see the fact that that does have reinforcement in the wall if you want to add a folding seat. And notice how much headroom is above my head in this shower. These Model Zs have 79 1/2 inches from floor to ceiling panel, including in the shower, creating amazingly comfortable experiences, even if you're bigger than the average bear like me. I'm a little over 6 foot tall for reference. Now, they have gotten rid of their skylights, but they added this extra ventilation system right here just to help keep everything aired out. And, you know, if it's the middle of the night, the skylight's not going to give you light anyway. So they include the laser light beam right there in the shower space. And as dumb as it sounds, I absolutely love and appreciate the double decker kind of shower caddy solution that they have built right into this. A lot of RVs just do not give you any place to set. Well, I mean, let's just be honest, shower beers. You know, some people like to take their Wendy's fries and dip them in a Frosty because they like the hot and cold, the sweet and salty contrast. Some people just like a cold drink and a hot shower. They find it very refreshing. You know, if you go to a spa and you sit there and have a mimosa, nobody judges you, but you crack open a cold Coors Light in a shower and suddenly you're an alcoholic. Like, I don't know the double standards in this world, but frankly, I'm getting sick of them. Moving on from there to that probably not HR approved dialogue I just dropped. Good drawer space over here. Also, let me get the good drawer space out of the way. Soft close drawers at that. Nice little wastebasket space down here. We're going to talk more about plumbing when we step outside. On the way up, as I stand up here, I want to point out that we do still have, you know, all like metallic sinks, solid surface countertops, and it's easy to miss because they actually recess the medicine cabinet in the wall cavity. It's not just a mirror glued on the wall. You do have a full, you know, medicine cabinet solution going on there. Now, up front here in this bedroom, let's kind of start from the top and work our way down. Once again, plenty of lighting, and it is dimmable. You do have your factory standard second air. So this air conditioner is centralized only to the bedroom and bathroom. The main living room chill cube direct dumps the cold air in the living room in a very effective fashion, and then has a central air duct off of that into the rear bunk room. So all 4 rooms of the RV, living, kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, living, kitchen being one, obviously, bedroom, bathroom, and then bunk room, they all are equally climate controlled, effectively. Now, this is a 60 by 80 true queen with plenty of space to walk around it. I want to clarify, earlier I mentioned no floor heating vents, basically not in the lower deck. Although now that I say that, not in a walkable space in the lower deck, because I think they actually do have a floor heat duct under the main entry steps. But you get the idea. Basically, where you're going to interact with the RV, it does not have floor vents. They are not currently offering a king or an Olympic queen or anything. This is a 60 by 80 north-south walk-around true queen bed, and that's basically all it is right now. Now, I appreciate that they gave us all the storage they could. They've been doing that throughout the entire RV. This cabinet space over the bed, I think largely is here to cosmetically look the way you expect a bedroom to look, so it doesn't just look empty and barren and forgotten. One of the hiccups here is they have a pretty aggressive radius nose sweep on this, and they shove the bed all the way up in the front of it, which is why there's tons of room to walk around the base of the bed where I'm standing right now. What does this say? Okay, backer location for wall-mounted hanging rack. There's some little extra add-ons and doodads you can slap on there if you are so inclined. But I do like how they give it a good look. It's still some functional space. I can show some socks and underwear up there. Put some t-shirts in there. I like all the radius work on that. That you do have household and USB outlets on both sides of the bed. You can't always necessarily see them all at the same time here. And you might notice how the bottom of that cabinet is not flush with the floor. That's because that's actually where there's some pretty severe structural cross member action going on up in there. And there is storage below the bed, but something I love, they made the storage open outward. So you don't necessarily have to lift the bed to get to it. It's simple, it's easy, it's effective. And I really want to give Coachman RV, as far as I know, some credit for being one of the brands to kind of pioneer and reinvent the underbed storage space. A lot of manufacturers have their own little variant solution for this. On a bunch of our own Wayfinder RVs at Bish's, we have some kind of variant of it. And I'll flat tell you, we stole it from Coachman. As far as we know, maybe somebody else did it first, but that's who we saw and we copied. Fact is, it works. The storage comes out to you. You don't have to dig to the storage. And behind that second door, you see how there's a light down here? Behind the second door, there's actually a motion sensor. So if you sling your legs over the bed at night, it will cascade some light downward, not blind you, and show you where you're going, because no one wants to be blinded by the light. Is your preference there Bruce Springsteen or the Manfred Mann Earth Band? Leave me a note, let me know, or don't, because I can't tell you what to do. They don't waste any space, again, adding that little enclosed pocket up there. But also, you might notice, I'm going to get you around this corner, they give you a couple cargo tie-downs too. Simple, lightweight, not mega heavy duty, but functional and effective in case you have things like totes you don't want to fly around. And then you might notice how there's kind of a recessed cavity in these dresser tops. They saw 1.5 inches, 2 inches right there they could do something with, said open it up. Why waste it? And I think that's really cool, really smart. I agree. They're doing horizontally in the bedroom what they would otherwise do vertically in the living room. And that sounds questionable when I phrase it like that. But what I'm getting at is your windows are long. So they give you the day shades over here, and then the night shades on this side, still with the radiant backer, the foil line backer on the back of that to help keep you from baking like a potato up here. And that does have a screen because that does open for some pretty awesome airflow. Fully frame out the windows. Like a lot of manufacturers, when you leave the living room and you go into the bedroom, you start losing things. And that's not the case here. Now, you might have noticed, it sounds funny to think this is a only one slide Brinkley Model Z. Now they have a couple others, but for the most part, you think of Brinkley, you tend to think big multi-slide fifth wheels. So it doesn't have a bedroom closet slide out, which means you've reduced weight, cost, seal points, mechanisms, failure points. Instead, what they did is they built a big floor to ceiling storage cabinet over here. Now on the left, you can see at the top, it does have a hanging rack, but it's got a bunch of shelves in the way. Those shelves are removable. You've got a more traditional hanging wardrobe tower on the right-hand side. That left-hand pocket is actually shared in the bed, and apparently there's some motion lighting in there. So, hey, there we go. If you want to, you can remove some or all of this stuff and install either a combo or stackable washer-dryer in this. If you install a stackable washer-dryer, you've essentially eliminated almost all of your personal bedroom clothing storage. But the hard fact is, despite how many people ask for a washer dryer in RVs, it's like less than 0.5% of people ever really end up installing one. And that might make certain people's heads spin like, absolutely, I wouldn't camp without one. I get it. You're one of those folks. And that's okay. This RV does have that feature, but it's not a prioritized feature. They still prioritize daily function and travel. Now, as you notice, we have also transitioned here over into road mode. With the slide out closed, we can get to our dining table dinesque thing. I think they actually trademarked the word dinesque. I've been throwing it in my videos for a while, and I think I actually saw that among the Brinkley trademarks. So that is yet again another of my RV nerdisms, which has become an industry term, which I think is so funny. But you can get to the fridge, you can get to the stove, you can get to the microwave, you can basically fully function the kitchen space. You can't get to the bunk room, but don't forget, this RV has that second entry door straight into the bunk room. So you can use it for cargo in transit. It could be a travel stop sleepover space. And to make sure the gas station murder hobo don't come and get your kids, you can still, remember, deadbolt this door right here, which is a handy feature. Actually, it's deadbolted now, which explains why a second ago I was having a weird difficulty closing the door. I'm so stupid, I never thought about that. Actually, I'm not used to bunk rooms having a real entry door. And both doors actually have their own keypad, number pads. So you can come up with a number code that you share with your kids so that, like, if for some reason they need to get in or out of the RV and you're not right there with a set of keys, they can still get in and be safe, comfortable, secure without necessarily needing you to do it for them. So I don't necessarily love the two-stage travel access, but I do like those extra daily function, family-friendly features. That was a lot of F's and alliteration, for real. Now, as is commonly the case on one of these, I don't recommend pairing this up with a half-ton myself. First of all, just the GVW, this approaching 15,000 pounds, there's pretty much not half-tons made to handle that. But also the hitch weight before cargo, registering just under 2,000 pounds, already blows a half-ton out of there. By the time you add a hitch and a family and cargo to this thing, this is a 3/4 ton tower and up. And even then, you're going to want to make sure you got the right 3/4 ton. I've actually seen some 3/4 tons with as little as like 1,600 pounds of payload, because like if you get the diesel with the electric running boards and stuff, it makes the truck weigh more, which means you can handle less on the RV. A lot of people don't realize the two are related. They have maintained just a stellar look on this. And look at that sort of like stealth graphic they have up there on the nose. The mountain caps that kind of fade in and out of view. It just gives it such a cool, smexy look on these. They are also the first and only manufacturer I've seen to, maybe they made some kind of special arrangement up here on this Kurt shock dampening pin box, the Helix pin box system, to not have a big old orange spring. They have theirs specced out black, probably for aesthetic reasons. There's no physical difference between them. But if you're not familiar with this, as compared to a hard fixed pin box, this organically transfers, I think something, I can't remember if this is 30 or 50% or the suspension's 30 or 50%, but somewhere between 30 to 50% less stress from the towing experience into the framework and structure of the RV. Now, when we get down at ground level, you can kind of see the little orange shock system sticking out down there. That's a related, similar kind of system, and it's 30 to 50%. Again, I can't remember which one's 30 and which one's 50, but the hitch and the suspension package, the two things that help, absorb violence before it gets smashed into the RV, are factory standard upgraded on here, which I think is really sharp, really smart, really nice and handy. Now, I always forget to do this. I always forget to open this front baggage compartment, so pardon me real quick. Well, I mean, as far as you know, it's just a little blip on the screen. What you didn't see is what it took. I mean, you think I just opened a baggage door, but I had to go like 3 counties over, sacrifice a chicken. It was a whole process. Anyway, you might notice this thing up here. This is your hydraulic reservoir and manifold system, basically, because this does have hydraulic auto leveling, which this is one of the smallest fifth wheels I've ever seen with that feature. You see that if you do feel like adding a generator to this, they kind of pre-prep it to do all that kind of stuff. They don't offer it from the factory, but that is something that we could accomplish for you, like if you give our team a contact. Now, down here, they have they've got a little battery jumper box hooked up to it so that, we can run the slides and things. Even though it's plugged in, it's still good to have some level of battery on the RV. I do the same thing when I do my video. So they're obviously being very smart down here at Brinkley, and they're not like burning up a converter on a prototype just because it sounds fun. But if you've got the battery box over here where you can like hook up some big serious batteries. That's a double-sized box. But I love how they leave those little jumper ports on the outside so that if you do need to hook up something like this, it's just quick and easy, You've got your 60 amp MPPT charge controller. The reason I really want to stress that is up on the roof, this has a 370 watt solar package. If you want to, you could expand on that a little bit, and the 60 amp package allows you to probably handle, I'm going to shoot from the hip and say somewhere between 700, 750 watts, give or take around that range. I haven't done the hard math on that, but you could roughly double the solar package that's on this right from the factory. So not too bad at all. Now, while we're, I'll get the awning open in just a second, by the way. as long as I have all this stuff over here. If I sound more foggy than normal, I've spent the last 2 weeks basically on airplanes, jetting around the country. And I got in very late last night due to some delays. Sleep is not something I'm very familiar with right now, so the brain is extra foggy, which is always extra fun. Down here, a couple cool things I really like that they do. First of all, they make it very easy to get in here and access everything. But secondly, notice the cleanliness of this. If you go through and watch my Model Z factory video tour, what you will see is that this is a standard practice for Brinkley. They didn't vacuum clean this one out just because I was showing up with a camera today. This is what they do. Now, a couple things. They use a higher grade heat ducting material right here. Basically, it feels like you took dryer hose venting and wrapped it in duct tape, and that makes it very, very robust, but it also has fewer ridges for a little bit better efficiency. And if you're noticing, a couple things. You might notice how they're using all PEX on PEX plumbing. Every water line has its own disconnect and brass fittings. They use brass fittings basically on everything, everywhere they possibly can. They're using something that is 2 grades above industry standard and or requirement. They've done everything they reasonably can at this stage, given the current limits of RV supplier and materials, to make sure you don't have a plumbing leak, basically, just giving you the best things they can where they can. Now, another thing they did here that I really like is they put flat maximum patio awning space on this. So because I can't, I sound like Porky Pig. I've also learned that children, like my daughter's a teenager, I found out that kids don't generally know who Porky Pig and Bugs Bunny and whatnot is. So make sure you do them some justice and you teach your kids some culture, obviously. But 20-foot awning on the front, more traditional RV style awning. So 20 foot of coverage in the front, plus an additional 10-foot armless awning coverage in the back. Although it's not like none of the arms are hanging down where they're going to hit you in the head. We'll stress the armless thing in a minute. I realize I forgot to kind of discuss this extra belly-mounted storage tray here. The Model Zs are not a drop frame storage. I think they're actually better off not being that way. First of all, it just simplifies the whole structural aspect of it. Secondly, when you have a drop frame storage compartment, you have a very tall compartment that is very visually appealing, but the problem is it's not everyday functional. You tend to stack cargo on flat surfaces, not on top of one another. So this actually creates more separated space to have like more customizable cargo solutions included. Like right here, you see a couple, patio chairs or something down in there. You could maybe fold up your campsite rug and shove it in there. I don't know, whatever works for you. Now, as long as I'm down here, kind of on my knees, I want to point out a few other things. First of all, the full width belly sewer tube for the stinky slinky, as it were. That way you don't have to, go mixing that in with the rest of your park stuff. The underbelly, it is enclosed. It's forced air heated. Radiant barrier layering laminated to the bottom of the enclosure. They also have a holding tank heat pad system on all of your holding tanks. Again, sorry, my brain's foggy. You might notice you don't see outside speakers on the sidewall of the RV, but you do have outside speakers outside. They're mounted under the skirt, so you hear them by your campsite, but you don't blow the neighbors away and you haven't introduced leak points into the RV. And then you see the suspension package here. Now, you got to watch these, a lot of people in the RV industry. I have heard a lot of people suddenly describing this that system, because several brands are using it. As far as I know, Brinkley was one of the first to really bring it to market, and then everyone's like, well, if they're doing it, we should do it too. But that touring coil suspension, TCS, is awesome. Actually, if you watch my original 2680 video, you saw where they were originally prototyping it way back when. Brinkley's they're always very aggressive about trying new things. They're very conservative about applying them to their RVs. They have to pass the testing, basically, because one of the things here is every prototype they make, the product developers themselves take them on test runs. And what's cool, in the case of Brinkley, which is almost never the case anywhere, the product developers are the founders and presidents and vice presidents of this company. That's, I think, one of the great Brinkley differences and advantages. The people who design these actually camp. And that makes so much sense. You know, one of the last times that was true in the RV industry was the original Fleetwood RV. The original president of Fleetwood RV looked like a dude with old blue jeans and a t-shirt that had a pocket on it. And he was just a hammer swinging kind of guy. And he actually camped and he really got it. And it's not, I don't think it's a coincidence that there was a point where Fleetwood was more than 50% of the RV market. Brinkley has kind of the same DNA going on. By the way, H-rated tires, factory standard on these. Again, it is hydraulic auto leveling. It is 4-point, not 6-point, because this RV is literally like not big enough for a 6-point system and all the gyros and everything to work effectively. Now back to the awning setup right here. Because of the taper of the roof line, they couldn't put a traditional arm-style RV awning back here, but they really wanted an awning back here. And they didn't want to like split an awning right by the entry door, because if you notice, look at the location of that entry door in relation to that big 20-foot front awning. It's not dead in the middle, but it's pretty close in the middle. And what that means is that if it's a light drizzle day and you really need to maximize the space for your family, you can leave that door, well, not necessarily open, but you can come and go without getting rained in the face or having rain spritz into your RV, because everybody knows that's a awesome situation to have rain in your camper. Obviously, you don't want that. Well, this system allows them to do that and still give you a shaded, covered space back here for what I'm going to call a camp convenience center. I actually really agree with what they're doing here, to the tune that if you check out Bish's own Wayfinder RV series, we've done a very similar thing where we haven't forced on you, traditionally, a full-on camp kitchen. There's some power outlets back there. You've got some storage. What I do love about this, like this is all galvanized rolled steel. These drawers are metallic. I literally went and got a water bottle and dribbled a little bit of water in here to kind of showcase the fact that, so what? So like if it's a little drizzly and you get some water in here, I mean, it's like if you have towels and stuff, that's not ideal, but it's not going to damage anything. That's what I love about this. It's just made to hold up a little bit better. If I'm not mistaken, also, I need to double check my notes. I'm about 99% sure they have finally adopted 12-volt outside refrigeration like you see right here. So it's not a 110 fridge outside and a 12-volt fridge inside. And you do also have your gas grill cooker hooker down below here. Now, if you got really super eagle eyes, you might notice something. This RV has 2 stinky slinky sewer tubes, because this RV actually does have 2 sewer hookups. It's one of the only little points that I have on it. For the most part, though, I don't have a lot of complaints. We're down here at ground level, but as you notice going up that ladder, they actually give you a bracket to make the ground to roof transition far more safely. And these nice big, like, I'm just going to call them like square ladders for lack of a better, smarter phrase. Maybe they have an official name. I don't know. The Brinkley one here is rated to hold 20% more weight than the industry requirement. And it makes a perfect little towel hanger. You know, if you've got a couple beach towels outside, you just kind of fold it in half, hang them up here, plenty of air. They dry out pretty darn nicely. Just don't leave them out in the rain. The 300-pound hitch on the back, well, it's a 300-pound vertical limit, pardon me, for cargo, but it has a 3,000-pound towing limit. So that is an actual tow hitch. An RV with a tow package sounds weird, but is technically correct in this instance. Another thing I don't want to forget to mention, you might notice there's a backup camera already installed on this. That's just a Model Z feature. Since day one, Model Zs have a camera on the back. Again, the people that develop these actually camp. And I talked to the fellow on that, Micah, and he goes, well, yeah, I've never had a single trip where I didn't have to back into a campsite. I figure everybody else is the same. So why don't we give them an RV that makes it easier to back up? I have no arguments, no notes whatsoever. Makes plenty of sense to me. Now, once again, you might have noticed how there is the privacy shade built into that. There is the bug screen feature. There's one use common sense point that I want to share with you proactively in this video. And that is when you are getting ready to break camp and close the slides, make sure the kids didn't come out the back door and get this back here. Now, to help you avoid that, they actually do have a door stopper on this because, once again, having actual camping experience really does help. But if the kids are, if something breaks, you don't want to get this door behind this slide fascia, but from the factory level, they have already done something to prevent and address that. But always double check that stuff before breaking camp. Now, I mentioned earlier that this is a two-headed sewer monster. I also want to go through and kind of explain the gray tank system on this, because you've got one fresh, one black tank. Those are pretty straightforward. You technically have 3 gray tanks. Each are 40 gallons. So this RV has a total of 120 gallons of gray water capacity. But that's because up in the front bathroom, you have 2 of those 40-gallon tanks cross-plumbed together for a true 80-gallon bathroom capacity, and then a 40-gallon dedicated kitchen capacity. The reason I really want to stress that is if you just see 120 gallons, you don't realize you can't use it all in one space. But the fact is they've done everything they could to give you all the gray water capacity possible here. Now, in the case of this floor plan, the gray outmuscles the fresh and the black combined. I get it, but that's just the nature of how this floor plan laid out, essentially. You do have your on-demand water heater here, which if you like to take long hot showers, which I do, you can actually use that 80-gallon gray capacity in the bathroom area there. Then their docking center over here. Since day one, Brinkley kind of brought to market, I think some motorized RVs had this, but towables traditionally did not have electronic dump gate valves, and there is a manual override on those. Those have stayed, obviously. You do have a hot-cold outside utility shower, actually on both sides of the pass-through. If you back the footage up, you'll check that out. Then they do a couple things here. They go ahead and just include the brass elbow fittings for you so that you don't have to like go to the aftermarket store to get the accessories. And this is, I never remember if this is 25 or 35 or 40 feet, but basically a really long built-in fresh water hose right here on this like recoil thing. You know what? I figured if I walked out far enough, I could finally use it all up, but I can't. You know what I've never done is just let it go. Probably shouldn't have done that now that I've thought about it, but whatever. Here we are. Couple other quick notes for you. Under the fiberglass skin, you do have Asdel. And if you get right up and close and personal to this thing, just like the inside of the RV, one of the things that you will not see on the outside is just a whole string of fasteners. Like even where the skirt metal rivets in place, it's basically all done essentially from the back so that this always has a clean, sleek look. The biggest problem you're gonna have with the look of this is all the people rubbernecking you going down the highway or driving past you on their golf carts at the campsites. So what do you think, everybody? That's my 2 cents, as I always do. I'll drop you a link in the video description so you can get a rough idea of where we have these, as well as MSRP on one of these. In the case of this manufacturer, I'd love to be able to have our everyday discounted sale price published for you. We're not allowed. We're just not allowed. There's a couple manufacturers where that is the case for dealerships, and we play by the rules, which should also be a good indicator for you that if you give our team a call and give us an opportunity to work with you, that we're going to play by the rules for you too and take care of you as well. But let me know what you think about this. And again, if you're looking at this and you're like, man, I don't need the bunks, check the links in the description. They make one without bunks called the 2680. If you're like, I need a little bit more, they definitely make models that give you a little bit more and then plenty more after that. So until next time, thanks again for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, have fun, and happy camping, everyone.